All right, so just some housekeeping as you know, this is a very good topic and we want to create a safe space for each other. This will probably be the only time you see me read directly from a presentation, but I feel it's just that important. So listen actively, respect others when they are talking, speak from your own experience instead of generalizing, right? So we want to refrain from using the term I instead of they or we and you. Participate to the fullest of your ability. Community growth depends on the inclusion of every individual voice. And then, of course, maintaining confidentiality. I think this is the most important bullet. I think one of the most impactful things about these sessions is what we say here stays here. And we all appreciate that about each other. And I think that just builds that sense of community as we continue these conversations. All right, so without further ado, as we move to the next slide, I'm going to pass it to Ed Poliandro as he guides our discussion. And I just want to share, if you have any questions or any thoughts you'd like to share, for questions, you can use the Q&A button towards the bottom. And if you want to share any comments while Ed is presenting, you can use the chat. And Ed, I'm going to pass it to you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Good afternoon, everybody. As Sean said, I'm Ed Poliandro. I am absolutely delighted to be here with my colleagues, Jasmine and Sean. We're from ODI, as you know, to talk about this very important book that we have been studying on our own at ODI. And as you've noticed, it says racial justice at work. And one of the things about this title that strikes me is when at work. At work means in our workplace, but at work means the process of racial justice, that it continues to be a priority, and that we're all working on it. So what we'd like to do in this time is I'm going to share with you some definitions and get your impressions also about justice, do a very brief overview, and then let's just jump in. We have some questions, and of course, the questions that you put in the chat, plus the questions that we have. We look forward to all of it. Next, please. So when you think about justice, what word or image comes to mind? And I invite people to get off mute and just share out. Or if you feel most comfortable in talking, putting in the chat, Sean will read from the chat. What comes to mind when you think of justice?
Fairness.
I'm sorry?
Fairness.
Fairness. Thank you. Yeah. Others. Justice. Equality. Thank you. Righting a wrong. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Arbitration. Yeah. Well, we've begun to think and to go deeper into this word. And as Mary Frances Winters points out, the justice is not what we hear in the workplace, in the DEI space, diversity, equity, inclusion, but we don't often hear justice. So this is a new moment, and we're bringing this to our system. Um, seeing some others. Sean just said correcting harm. Now let's go to the next one. So what do you hear or see or imagine when you see the words racial justice at work? The phrase racial justice at work. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is that this is not something that we speak about.
Thank you. This is not something we speak about in these terms. We have talked about it in other terms. We look at it in terms of health equity, We look at disparity, but we don't look at racial justice in our workplace. And yes, I see it gets ignored. What else has come into the chat, Sean?
Yes, we have Ashley said creation of programs to correct established system inequalities. Freddie, increase opportunities. Marlene, fair opportunities for everyone, no matter their background, and equal opportunities for all. So some really good responses. We also have increased awareness of the topic from Keisha. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for this. And it really speaks to something that we're doing, as I mentioned before, about health equity. What does that mean? And we're going to get into equity and equality in a minute. But thank you all for this. Next, please. So we're looking at how we define justice. And this is from this book, from the chapter. Justice requires us to repair harm and develop new ways of thinking and being that ask the questions, who will benefit from these decisions and who will be harmed by this decision? And what a powerful statement to think about. It requires something that, and our system is in the process of this consciousness, working on this consciousness and working toward this consciousness of really looking at the harm of the structures that have been in place because of history in healthcare in general, and we're a part of the healthcare system, that have caused harm. And then from that acknowledgement and struggle with looking and seeing and hearing, getting to new ways of thinking and being. And I'm pleased, and in my experience in working here with our colleagues across the system, is that we are working on new ways of thinking and being. And of course, the questions, and this comes for those of you, for all of us who deal with policies and procedures, who make them or who have to live and address them, asking the questions, who's benefiting from this policy and who would be harmed by this decision? And it's interesting to look at harmed by the decision. Harmed can be who will not receive the resources, thereby developing inequality, or who will be left out. And when we are left out as human beings, it hurts. And when we are left out and not having resources or opportunities, it hurts even more and it's harmful. And another way of looking at that is who's at the table and who's not at the table. And if we are about a system about radical inclusion, and each one of us is working on radical inclusion in our own little way and also together, these are important questions. So I'd like to just suggest that what Mary Frances is offering us is a new way of thinking and questioning in our work every day in the various roles that we have. Next, please. And now we're going to broaden that a little bit to social justice. And social justice, and this is from ESED in 2013, refers to addressing structural disparities in the human condition that create disproportional acquisition of economic, social, or political power, the effect of which leaves people exploited, marginalized, and denied dignity and respect by a dominant culture. Here we are talking about race and racial identity. This can go for any marginalized group, whoever the dominant culture is. And these are the people, the people who are not in that dominant culture for whatever reason. This is about social justice and taking a look at that. And we, as healthcare professionals in a healthcare system, we're impacted. This is played out in what we do in terms of service delivery to our patient communities. And also something we need to be aware of for each other in this workforce. Next, please. So justice can be categorized, Mary Frances says, in several ways. Distributive, and that determines who gets what and who makes that decision. Procedural, that determines how fairly people are treated. So I invite you to think about in your own departments, in your own areas, how does this get played out? And as leaders, and we have official leaders and positions, but we all take leadership by using our voices. How would you like to see this better? Retributive determines how people are punished for wrongdoing, and that's in being sanctioned or being suspended in a workplace, or retributive in a larger social setting, societal setting, and wrongdoing. And contributive, everyone has a right to contribute how a society operates. That's our system. That's our aspiration. Where else do we need to grow in that as a society and also within our own health system? And restorative, repairing what is broken and compensating victims for past harm. So you see, justice in this level justice here has many different levels of being played out. Some are clearer, some are quite perplexing to do. So we're putting out some of the ideas of the chapter, and then let's see what lands on each of us. Next, please. So what does it mean to be justice-centered? Well, first, it's understanding and acknowledging. And that's what we as a system are doing, is really looking and not turning away, but looking and owning, as painful as it is for all of us to do, depending on the identities we each have. And then she says it's reimagining. And this word is so good because it's hopeful. So she encourages us to own what is to be owned and then to reimagine. And there's where the hope is. How do we reimagine this and how do we work towards this, which is actualizing? All of these processes we're working on, some with greater success and accomplishment than others. Others are works in progress. But just see where you are here in your lives and also in your lives and your roles in our system. And when we do this, we are a justice-centered workforce. Next, please. So the chapter overview has to do with actualizing justice. It's not just for those who prioritize comfort over progress. If we prioritize comfort, we don't want to change anything. It's about doing something else. And here's the equality versus equity, which I would think most of us know about. Equality is the act of treating everyone the same, with the same opportunities, while in equity, we consider different needs of people based on past discrimination history that continues to cause disparate outcomes. And here's the hope that she adds. It's when we can no longer predict outcomes by one's identity. Then that's our measure. That's our metric that we're all working towards. And having a justice-centered approach requires us to consider who has been or is harmed by workplace systems and who benefits from the status quo. And do we correct policies and practices and belief systems? To what degree do we do that and act on that? Next, please. So we have some questions here, but I'm going to stop and see if there are questions that come up in the chat, because I'd like to address that and have us talk about what's coming from this group right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean now and then to Jasmine.
Thank you, Ed. So we definitely wanted to, well, first of all, thank everybody. And I think Ed made a great suggestion about a poem from The Hill We Climb. We'll be sharing pieces of this poem at the end of every session. So when day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, I see we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned the quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just is isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we know it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. I also have various quotes we may use. So just wanted to share that piece of the poem, kind of level set us. I know this was a very deep discussion. And at this point, I'm going to pass it to Jasmine to close us out.
Thank you, Sean. And I also want to thank everyone for their thoughts. This is a great conversation. It's just great to hear how everyone is feeling about the book. And I look forward to future sessions and to continuing the conversation. To close out the session, I just want to say that we do have a feedback form. If you could scan the QR code here, just let us know your thoughts, any suggestions for future sessions, and not just the book sessions, any future Let's Connect sections as well that you might want to discuss. So I'll leave this here for a minute or two if anyone wants to scan it. Okay. So next I want to talk about some additional resources that the Office for Diversity and Inclusion has. The first one is our DEI Academy. It's a hub and it has an array of classes that you can go in and take. You can scan the QR code here to learn more about that. And then the second resource is our United in Solidarity web page, which is an online platform that, you know, provides support and resources for the Mount Sinai community. So you can scan here to learn more as well. I'll just leave that there for a second. All right. And then finally, I just want to just spoke about our next book session. Ed mentioned it earlier as well. It's going to be on Thursday, February 22nd. We ask that if you do want to join, you do register because it's going to be a new Zoom link. It won't be the same one. And we'll be discussing chapter 2 in that session. And then lastly, we you can scan here for the full list of Black History Month events. And then we can also send the slides to everyone, so you can also have these QR codes for you as Pam referenced in the chat. So I think that is all. Yeah. Oh, sorry, one more slide. Just to follow us on social media, we have our handle on Instagram is Diversity at Mount Sinai. And then on LinkedIn, it's the MSHS Office for Diversity and Inclusion. So these are going to be these are our links to follow us on social. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, you'll find a lot of great content on there. It is also Lunar New Year's Eve, so we had some really good tabling happening across the system. So once again, thank you all. We are looking forward to continuing this session around this book series. And thank you, Ed, fantastic moderator. And thank you all for just a really good and deep conversation. And I hope you all have a really good, positive and productive rest of the day.
Bye, everybody. Good week. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, how do we get that background?
It's classified. No, I will send it to you right after this.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I think that's everyone. Yep.
Well, excellent, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you all.
John, go.
I'm right here.
John's
Oh, I
there.
didn't see. Oh, I didn't see your face. Sorry. I'm like, oh my God. No, excellent. Yeah, really, excellent, excellent, excellent.
Well,
So-
we're learning, so fire away, you all, about
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, please.
do that, don't do this. I want to
No,
know.
no, 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 no. Everything was fine. What I wanted to say is just us, right? I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's just us.
Yeah, it's
Turn
just
off the
us.
recording if you can, because I'm going to say
Oh,
Oh,
something.
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
please.
Hold on 1 second.
Say something how I want recorded.
You know, I'm convinced
you,
Pam used to be
Pam.
CIA.
Oh,
No, but you
gosh.
know me,
Sorry, hold
Sean. I
on.
have too
Off
many
the
things to
record,
say.
off the record.
It's still saying recording.
How do I turn this off? Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to figure
Well,
out.
I can.